Barstool Sports is no stranger to controversy. For years, the Boston-born, New York-based sports and lifestyle brand has embraced boorish and bawdy as a strategy, and it's worked. But now, as Barstool makes its biggest move yet into the mainstream, the past may be catching up. Adam has more.
ESPN's newest show is a coup for Barstool Sports, which spent years mocking the sports media establishment and now is part of it.
They're not gonna get it! The New York Football Giants!
But ESPN's NFL Countdown host Samantha Ponder isn't sharing in the fun. She notes that in 2014, Barstool called her a Bible-thumping freak and a chick that has a job where the number one requirement is you make men hard. She also referenced a podcast featuring Barstool Van Talk Stan Katz and Barstool founder David Portnoy.
There's no one worse right now than Samantha Ponder.
She's the worst. No person who watches Game Day wants to see a picture of her and her ugly kid. Nobody cares, Sam Ponder. We want to see you sex it up and be slutty. And Sam Ponder, you slut.
Katz was uncontrite, tweeting, "That feeling when the haters and losers try to get your show canceled a day before the premiere, but you're too busy pounding donuts." Also unapologetic, Barstool CEO Erica Nardini, who tweeted, "We're a comedy brand that's been on the internet for 15 years and not for everyone." ESPN tried to find a middle ground, saying the comments about Sam Ponder were offensive and inappropriate, but adding, "We do not control the content of Barstool Sports."
Okay, this may be contrary to what I said just a few minutes ago, but I support 1,000% what Samantha Ponder did coming forward and producing those disgusting, raunchy, horrible emails. And she's right, by the way. And this is the mentality of ESPN, NBC Sports, let's go right down through the litany. They want Barstool because it's a brand that they think is going to bring them money because they have a big audience. And this is the way they talk, and this is what... So they're not going to listen to what she said. But at least she made it public.
They have a huge audience. I think that they will listen to the extent that they won't let the ugliest of Barstool Sports creep into Barstool Van Talk. My hunch is that ESPN sees this as a sort of a hedge. They have taken a lot of flack from people who've said, oh, ESPN is too worried about talking about social issues. They talk too much about race. They talk too much about women's sports and women's rights. I think they see this as a way to get an audience of primarily young men who are not concerned about those issues and might even in some cases have been voicing the criticism. The same guy, Burke Magnus, ESPN's executive VP for programming, the same guy who tweeted that, these comments are offensive and Samantha Ponder was right to be upset. The day after Barstool Van Talk aired, he was tweeting about how terrifically it had done with 18 to 34-year-olds. And as long as that's the case,
that's right.
I think he'll be quite happy.
ESPN is getting increasingly desperate to hold on to their business. We've talked about this before. What they pay for rights to sports things is forcing them to cut other things. And this is cheap programming that they can add. And I mean cheap in every sense of the word. It doesn't cost a lot of money, and it's just sleazy. I'm with you. I'm totally with Samantha Ponder. If she has done them damage and maybe this relationship will be rethought in some way, I think that would be a good thing for everybody.
I think it's a cop-out. It's a cop-out to say we don't control the content of Barstool Sports. You're giving them a platform. You're giving them money. You're giving them, you're elevating them. And in a sense, you're saying we don't control what you do over there, but we're okay with it. And I don't think that's cool.
Yeah, great way to destroy your brand even further. I mean, perhaps there'll be some kind of temporary ratings bounce, or maybe it's just all about some quick revenue they can pocket. But when you lie down with dogs, with all due respect to dogs, I'm reluctant to compare them to the guys at Barstool, or the men and women at Barstool. Erica Nardini's running out of self-righteous self-justifications there. When you lie down, you get fleas. That's what happens.
And maybe they're covering more women's sports and they're talking about women's issues because women like sports and women care about certain issues and women want to see a competition. They're not necessarily interested in what, during the campaign, we brushed off as locker room talk. Or at least during the campaign, we wouldn't allow to be brushed off as locker room talk.
And Barstool isn't about sports.
No, I know.
That's the thing. It's not about sports.
And it's funny. It was only a week ago that we were defending Barstool
I know.
Sports over a
You
a
were?
woman who,
Yeah, well,
there was
missed that
it's
one.
complicated, but
The
A woman
woman
who
who
didn't
wouldn't
want to
sign-
sign a
I
contract.
know the
with-
story.
You know that? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But we're
sorry.
saying
I was not
she-
defending Barstool.
We
No,
were, but
but
we're saying, don't sign it. Don't work for them.
Exactly, but
Don't put yourself in that
I
environment.
have to say, it feels good to be kicking them around again.
One point I want to raise, the context for what we heard from that podcast and the blog post back in 2014, actually definitely the blog post, not sure about the podcast, they were taking umbrage with Samantha Ponder suggesting at the time that there's some sort of a tension or some element of hypocrisy when blogs that objectify women do, I guess, criticize or condemn what Ray Rice did. Remember that horrible domestic violence incident that was caught on camera? So she had said, how can you on the one hand talk about women this way and yet say he did the wrong thing there? And they thought that David Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports, who is from Swampscott, Mass., he got very upset about that. What don't you get? We can say chicks are hot, but we can also say it's not okay to hit them. I actually wonder moving forward if Portnoy is going to be kept on a shorter leash and maybe pushed to the back of the operation. He's been its face ever since its inception, but he's not running the show right now. Erica Nardini is, and a lot of the worst stuff from the past, I think, is traceable back to him. So I wonder how much of a
But
presence he's going to be
just
as they
goes
try to
a
get bigger.
Bigger issue here that women as a whole are not a protected class. If this had been a smaller group, small, diverse group of people, and he had said those kinds of things, and it came to light, they wouldn't hire him.
You mean they wouldn't be partnering up with Barstool to do this show?
If he'd said about African Americans or Jews or
that's
anything
right.
like that, it would have been just been unacceptable.
Well, maybe they should have made ESPN sign a contract, including a clause saying if you subsequently discover that we're tacky, classless, misogynist, etc., you can't back out of the deal because you should have known what you're getting into, right? That was their
I think
spin.
they could have signed that. Exactly.
It all comes down to money. They're not going to change a single thing
Not one
until
thing.
they start
Yep.
losing
Right.
advertisers, viewers, or someone
agree.
else comes
Money
along.
David
talks.
Portnoy
Right.
will be
Everything else
front-
Exactly.
You might even see, to make this go away, you might even see the two guys who are co-hosting this show hired away from Barstool and folded into ESPN. That wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.